Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to this special edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch, where we're going to look at all things Rivals of Ixalan as we enter the fourth week since the set was released. So, of course, a lot's going on in the world of Standard as we're going week to week. People are solving the metagame a little more and more. So we're starting to see the strongest decks begin to emerge. Some of the decks that are a little weaker are beginning to fall by the wayside. And as you can imagine, there's an impact on card prices as that happens. We're going to explore those today, at least when it comes to Rivals of Ixalan. Now, quickly before we get started, just a really fast reminder, if you check out the description below, you'll find a few ways to help support what we do here, one of which is our Patreon page. You'll also find some product links on Amazon. If you buy anything on Amazon, once you go through that first link, we'll get a small percentage no matter what it is. Then finally, Flipside Gaming still offering a promo code for our viewers. You can pick up Rivals there, or really anything you want, and hopefully you'll save yourself some cash at the same time. With that being said, let's get into it. And we're going to talk about the basic lands really quick because I have had a lot of questions about them. Why are they so turbulent? Why are they going up? Why are they going down? Short answer is basically there's a lot of interest in these lands because the art is really beautiful on them. There are some players that want to collect these and want to put them in their decks. Now, when it comes to a small set, it's a little bit harder to get the lands than for a large set, because if you buy a box of Rivals of Ixalan, for example, you're not going to get all Rivals of Ixalan lands in your booster packs. You're going to get maybe a third or so Rivals lands. The rest are going to be Ixalan lands. Same if you buy a fat pack. So they're a little bit harder to come by, but they still are basic lands. I mean, there's a lot of packs being opened, and there's a lot in circulation. So what tends to happen as the interest of these peaks a little bit and people look at these lands and say, oh, hey, I want to pick up a bunch of these for my decks, the price goes up a little. And then at that point, stores, especially if anyone's done any mass openings or anything, they say, you know what, let's throw more of these out there into the marketplace and the price will settle again. So let's see where they stand right now. Plains went down this week, 6 cents to 18 cents. They're not doing too much. Forest down 57 cents to 23 cents. Swamps down 60 cents to 20 cents. Islands are up 50 cents to 84 cents though this week. And mountains are up 47 cents to 75 cents. All right, with that out of the way, let's get into the top 10 Rivals of Ixalan cards that have lost value this week. Coming in at number 10, Tetsumak, Primal Death, down 25 cents to 226. So this card is kind of sitting on the fringe of standard playability. Every once in a while, I'll see like a Dimir control deck running this out of the sideboard. You'll see that occasionally on Magic Online, like a one-of in the board. But many of the builds are not doing that, and because of that, you're going to see the price of this continue to dip. Number 9, Ghalta, Primal Hunger, down 25 cents to 425. So this is a card that is seeing standard play in better quantities anyway. You'll find this, of course, in the dinosaur builds as well as the monster builds. But now that we are getting a little deeper in the standard meta, it does look like these tribal decks are starting to have a little bit of trouble. Not that they're always doing poorly, not that they can't put up a big result here and there, but dinosaur decks, monster decks are starting to fall by the wayside a little bit, as are the vampire decks, which never really took off, and even the merfolk decks. We'll talk about that a little more in a few moments. But at least for right now, yeah, considering this is a rare, there's a lot of quantity right now being open when it comes to Rivals of Ixalan, so there's going to be a lot of these in circulation. This card takes a dip. I think it's going to continue to dip as it's going to see less and less play, I think, as the meta continues. Although it's going to still always hang around to some degree. And this is also another card that is seeing some commander play here and there too. Number 8 is Journey to Eternity, down 26 cents to $3. So I've talked about this card quite a bit over the last few weeks. The sad part about this card is it's a very interesting card. It could be powerful, I think. It just doesn't have a home right now. And the nature of the current meta isn't going to change that anytime soon. I think this card does have a chance to perhaps do something in a future meta if there's some other support cards that come out. I've said it before, this could be a throw forward card, kind of foreshadowing of things to come, maybe a new mechanic or something like that. If that's the case, maybe it does have a chance to shine someday. But at least for right now, it's relegated to casual and some commander play. Number 7, Warkite Marauder, down 28 cents to $2.50. Week 1, there was a little bit of hope when we saw a favorable wins deck running 4 of these. It did really well. So we thought, well, maybe this card could get there. It's actually a very powerful card in a deck like that. As a matter of fact, that deck wouldn't have done as well as it did in the first week if it wasn't for this thing being printed. But unfortunately, it really hasn't put up huge results since then, so this card is going to continue to decline, at least in the short term. Number 6, Deeproot Elite, down 28 cents to 461. So I alluded to this a few moments ago, but the Merfolk decks starting to fall off a little bit. Now, they put up good results. I've seen them come in 9th. They finish in the teens. But because they haven't put up that really high profile, like top 8 or anything like that, a lot of people are moving on to other things. I mean, right now the popular decks are the aggro decks, the mid-range decks, the control decks, things of that nature. And things like Merfolk and even Dinosaur starting to fall off a little bit. Now, I mentioned this earlier, but it is important to note again, you have to remember too, when you see these rares going down in value, a lot of that is just because of quantity in the marketplace. The set's new, tons of packs are being opened. So even if the card was successful in standard, it's going to have a hard time as a rare maintaining a high market value at this point because there's such an injection going into the marketplace. Mythics will have a little bit of an easier time staying relatively stable sometimes, but rares are really going to struggle at this point. Number 5, Watley Radiant Champion, down 40 cents to 649. So she continues to plummet. However, there is a glimmer of hope for Watley fans. I have seen on Magic Online some of the cat like Selesnya decks running 2 of these like in the main. So yeah, there is at least some hope for this card in standard. If it's not this meta, maybe in the future meta. But it is going to take a very specific kind of deck. Now the reason this card hasn't fallen below $6 at this point already is really because of Commander. This is actually really sweet in Selesnya token builds. Number 4, Direfleet Daredevil, down 40 cents to 424. So every week I kind of say, yeah, I know this is a rare, and I know that it had a high price point coming out of the pre-release time, but I really expect it to stabilize. It still hasn't stabilized, so it's down again this week. But I do expect it to stabilize, at least to some degree soon. Maybe it goes down a little more, but I think that this card is starting to find a foothold in different places. Not just in Standard. I mean, if you played Standard recently, you've probably seen the card showing up in a lot of places, sometimes on the board. But it's great in the aggro builds, it's good in mid-range, it's good in some of even the Monsters decks it shows up. So it's kind of all over the place. But what's really got me interested, though, is it's playing in other formats. Right now, I've seen, like, Legacy, for example, sometimes like Boros Taxes decks running this thing. I've seen Humans decks running this out of the board in Modern. So again, not all builds of these decks. But people are definitely trying it out, and if it catches on, you never know, right? So this card is starting to at least look for a foothold in some of the other formats, and that's important long term. Number 3, Jade Light Ranger, down 61 cents to 1138. Another card that's seeing a lot of play, like the previous one. This one also a rare, and this is really saying something. Yes, I know it went down 61 cents, which is significant percentage-wise, but the fact that you have a rare that's still over $10 at this point is really impressive. This sees play in the Constrictor decks, of course the Merfolk decks, also sees play in a lot of the mid-range builds. A lot of places are happy to run this because it's just a really solid 3-drop creature. Number 2, Kumina Tyrant of Araska, down 72 cents to 2045. So this had a high price tag coming out of the pre-release, and a lot of it was based off the fact that Merfolk looked like it would be a really solid deck. We saw the Merfolk deck, it was doing okay. And like I said, maybe not good enough for a lot of people to stick with it at this point. So no surprise this goes down quite a bit percentage-wise this week. But I do think this also will continue to fall. And probably would have fallen a little bit even if Merfolk were more popular. Because the issue with cards like this, even though it is a mythic, there's a little bit less copy-wise out there in the marketplace right now compared to rares. You do have to remember this is only going to be played in Merfolk decks. This isn't the Scarab God that can show up in tons of different places. This has a very niche role, so it's not going to be a $20, $25 mythic, even if the Merfolk deck was doing wonderful, which unfortunately it's a little shaky right now. So this will continue to go down. The reason this hasn't gone down faster, honestly, is Commander. There's a lot of Commander players putting together Merfolk decks, making this their Commander right now. And number 1 is Blood Sun, down 91 cents to $4.95. Not too surprising here. I mean, it has a pretty big drop this week. But the card is one of those cards that will find homes down the line in the future once people have a chance to kind of play with it more and wrap their head around it. It's an interesting card in specific decks, I think. The most successful thing we've seen from it so far is Legacy and like the mono red sneak decks. I've seen some of those do well running 3 of these in the main along with 4 Blood Moons in the main. That must be fun to play against. So this card is starting to creep in and kind of find its place, but it's going to take a little more time. And again, it is a rare, so there's a lot of copies out there. All right, let's move into Rivals of Ixalan cards that have gained value this week. Now, the first few cards you're going to notice are barely moving. They probably could have been almost anything, so I'll kind of go quickly through those. But just generally, gains are going to be very conservative right now, considering all the packs that are being opened. Number 10 is Zora's Gateway, up a cent to 5.96, so only up a cent. Again, this probably could have been any card, but I will say, fans of this card, they are trying to make it work in a lot of different places. I've seen this show up in some approach decks and standard. I've seen it in some vintage decks, even some like Legacy Eldrazi decks. People are trying it out in different places. I don't think they really necessarily care too much about the other side of the card, the Sanctum of the Sun side. I think they're more interested in finding a cheap loot outlet that isn't in blue. It's colorless. It can fit into a lot of different decks. Number 9, Highland Lake. It's up 2 cents to 20 cents. This is one of the enters the battlefield tap lands. Nothing really to say about it. Occasionally do these cross over into standard when there's a deck that really needs to be consistent on colors and doesn't mind slowing down a little bit. Yeah, I've seen this played on Magic Online out of some Izzet decks. It's going to happen occasionally, but really this could have been any card on the list. Number 8, Shake the Foundations, up 2 cents to 20 cents. I have seen this sometimes out of the sideboards of some of the monster builds, but again, not all of them, just a few doing it here and there. Number 7, Dead Man's Chest, up 2 cents to 34 cents. I haven't really seen a lot of play from this one. Again, like I said, a lot of these cards could have been anything. Number 6, Silverclad Frosted Ons, another card that hasn't really seen a lot of play, up 2 cents to 35 cents. Number 5 is Curious Obsession, up 3 cents to 28 cents. Now, this card has seen a little bit of play here and there in standard, and it is an uncommon, only going up 3 cents, but still saying something for an uncommon. And this card has seen play, of course, week 1 in that Auras deck. That captured a lot of people's attention. A lot of people are still playing that in like Friday Night Magic, trying to play it casually. Hasn't really put up another big result, though. But I've seen these in Merfolk decks, too, sometimes. Number 4, Elenda the Dusk Rose, up 5 cents to 5.79. Okay, we're back into Commander territory with this one. Now, does this card see a little bit of standard play? Sure. I've seen it in Abzan Tokens builds. Again, those aren't really doing all that well. I've seen people trying to make the Vampire deck work. Again, that one really never got off the ground. But more importantly, again, this is a Commander card. And I mentioned this in other videos, but it wasn't too long ago that we had the Vampire Tribal deck for sale. And a lot of people picked that up, and they're always looking for cool Vampire upgrades. And this set gave them a number of them. Number 3, Polyraptor, up 7 cents to 4.07. There was a lot of interest in this card coming out of the pre-release because of its combos and such, but unfortunately, it didn't really pan out. So the first few weeks I saw people trying to work the combos almost like a side game and maybe some decks like Monsters and Dinosaurs. But unfortunately, it was just too slow in this fast standard meta, and it was getting run over by the aggro decks and such that were out there. So those decks evolved to, for the most part, drop Polyraptor and go on to some more leaner options. So, yeah, the card isn't really a standard playable card right now. That could change in the future, though. I mean, raw power level is still there. If there's more pieces that make the combo faster or something like that in the future, that's something to watch. But right now, it's a casual Commander favorite, if nothing else. Number 2 is Twilight Prophet, up 30 cents to 9.90. And this card is another example of, sure, yeah, it does see play in some of these Vampire builds that are still kicking around, hanging in there. But more importantly, this is a card that's seen Commander play in those Vampire builds. And number 1, you probably guessed it because you've been staring at it since the beginning of the video, is Rekindling Phoenix. It's up $2.26 to $23. Yeah, it's awesome. And yeah, it's everywhere in standard right now, right? I mean, this card's showing up in the mid-range decks. It's in the aggro decks, all the different variants of those decks. It's showing up in Monsters decks. It's pretty much in every deck that's running red at this point. So the card's awesome. It's going to continue to see a ton of play. I do think it goes up a little more. Maybe it stabilizes closer to the $25, $26 mark before it maybe settles in and starts to decline a little bit as time goes on. And of course, it's not too long before we'll be in a brand new standard meta either. When Dominaria comes out in a couple months, maybe that changes the landscape a little bit, of course, being a large set. But at least for right now, this card is on top, and it is incredible. All right, with that being said, those are the cards for today. We're going to be back tomorrow with our full edition of Market Watch, where we look at everything else aside from Rivals of Ixalan. There's a lot going on in the world of Modern, the world of Legacy, Vintage, so tune in for all the details there. But until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe. Have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.